if you heard that a child was being starved by his parents, you'd be outraged. And you know the authorities would take that kid away. So what if a child is being stuffed nearly to death with food? Should those parents also lose custody? There's a controversial new study by 2 Harvard doctors saying that seriously obese children should be taken away from their parents because their health and lives are in danger. Now, it's unusual, Bob, for children to get that heavy. Now, we have certainly had higher obesity rates of late, but is that abuse when you try to stuff a child so much? One of these kids weighed 94 pounds at 3 years of age.
I know. It's first of all, let me explain. I had to leave at the last segment because it wasn't because I was mad at Greg. It's because I had to go get a ho-ho and go to the bathroom.
You got to get a what?
Is that what you call it, a ho-ho?
Have you ever had ho-hos, man? Oh, they're great.
Not as good as a ding-dong.
Ding-dong. Oh, you like ding-dong?
I think some of these kids have had ho-hos. But anyway,
this is a serious, let me get on a serious note here. We take kids away from mothers who are crack addicts, for example, because they're abused. Or they're neglected, which is a form of abuse. In the cases where these children are not being given nutrition to help them overcome what is clearly a death wish, I mean, a death sentence is what's going to happen to these kids who are obese. If that means the state has to take them out of those households, they ought to take them out and keep them out. And if the mother can't take care of this child, it's our responsibility to take care of the child.
I do not agree. I do not agree that the state should. I don't. It's a very slippery slope. I'm sorry. It's the parents' choice. A lot of these kids may just be genetically overweight. Look, this country is developing the most bizarre relationship with food. And if in the next decade all these kids develop even more eating disorders than they already have, we know who to thank.
Listen, I'm genetically overweight, but that was because it came from my family.
Well, that's what genetically means.
Oh, it does?
I talked to a child psychologist who specializes in eating disorders. She said, you would not believe all this talk of food around these kids, what they should be eating, what they can't eat. It's making them even more crazed and giving them even more disorders.
Okay, listen, Mr. Civil.
Greg, you always defend the fat kids.
I am. I'm a big fan of chubby kids because they're usually jolly and they have food on them. But these kids are different. There's an illness here, and they're called the super obese, and it's very rare. It's a very rare problem. But I think, that's why I'm not that.
And they're not making their own decisions.
Yeah, I'm not. That's why I'm not concerned about, in this case, the government stepping in, because it's so rare. And if you think the child's in danger, you got to go in there and save his life.
So have the government step in?
If a neighbor of somebody sees that there's something bad going on in there, somebody's got to do something.
Exactly, Greg, should the government step in?
Well, I think it's like
you didn't let me finish.
You didn't let me finish. It's like pornography. You know it when you see it. If you see a morbidly obese kid, you know he's morbidly obese.
But if a kid is being starved, you do take the kids out of the house.
Not only that, listen, if you see, it's no different. Believe me, it's no different than if you see a person beating their kids in their house with a bat. I mean, they're putting these kids. These kids have got a death sentence.
How is that? There is no. You can see. You'll see bruises. Kids will be hurt. How do you know? At what point is a kid obese? And what if the government says, you know what? Not only morbidly obese kids. Now, if you're just a little overweight, we're going to take the kids away.
As Greg said, it's pornography. I happen to know pornography when I see it, but I also know an obese kid when I see it who's overly obese, and that kid is going to die. They're going to die.
I know.
Is there a fat czar?
Fat police. They're going to kick down the door and say, "We got 20 pounds of Kraft macaroni and cheese."
Do you guys not think you should take a kid away from a crack mother?
You're comparing Twinkies to crack?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Well, I do think that this study is not just about kids who are overweight or chubby or having to wear, extra large clothing. It's more about the ones who are, 3 years old, weighing 100 pounds. Right. Maybe the social workers have gone in and tried to tell the parents.
It's a freakish anomaly. And that's why I don't think it's a huge damaging thing for the government to get involved. You're probably talking about, I don't know how many kids have this.
Not many. And the guy in that study said it was a very last resort. And I think
he wants to bring the kids back. He wants to take them out and then get them better and then get them healthy and bring them back in if the parents can take care of them. I'm more concerned about these regulations in Massachusetts. The government there is going to be regulating what students eat, and they're banning chocolate milk, which is absolutely ridiculous because that is like the only way I drink milk. And you're going to see, no joke, you're going to see increases in vitamin D deficiency and calcium deficiency because a lot of people don't like milk.
And to Andrea's point about there being this weird obsession with food, there is something, we've known about eating disorders in women for a long time. There was an article actually today in the Daily Mail out of the UK about men who have eating disorders are trying to look more like very skinny male models. They call it manorexia. And so in some ways we have both ends of the spectrum. causing huge problems.
Even more pressure. That's what I'm talking about. There's pressure even on men now to be super skinny. Enough, America. Let people eat what they want.
Well, let me just say, for one, I don't feel that pressure. And I do think that we're talking about a health issue here, a serious, serious health issue. These kids' hearts are in danger of exploding. We know that overly obese kids like this get very sick and die at a very young age. That's a given. Now, what do? Let them stay in there and get fed Twinkies?
That's the question, Bob, is what do you do? How do you go about it?
Take them out and try to save their lives.
I'm not going to advocate for ripping a child away from
Hey, Bob, if you're a smoking family, should the kids have to be taken away from them, too? I mean, that's just as detrimental to kids' health.
I don't have to buy into the secondhand smoke thing, so I'm the wrong guy to ask about that. I mean, I don't think
it's food is one thing, but smoking something completely entirely different.
There are people that are saying, you can't be in your car with your child while you're smoking because of the secondhand smoke. I think it's an entirely different thing. Here, the child is like within months of dying, weeks of dying. You got to do something. You have to. If you're a neighbor and you see that this is happening, you should be doing something about it.
Did you hear the story about taking this guy out of his that apartment building? They had to use a crane to get him out. He was like 1,700 pounds. Yeah. I mean, and he was like 23 years old.
And all of us pay for that, right? Because you pay for it in higher health care costs. You pay for it in higher taxes.
And
you're about to pay for it in higher
So if we'd gotten to him before he got to be 23 years old, maybe we'd done a lot cheaper, like with a bigger elevator. I don't know. What?
Let Maury Povich do it, not the government.
Right. Okay. Right. All right. So we're going to leave that one there. Coming up on the 5, San Francisco's efforts to protect former prisoners. We'll discuss the pros and the cons next. Care to share an opinion? Send us an email to the5@foxnews.com. More when the 5 returns.